Onegaishimasu. Welcome back to the Goju Ryu Karate Center. So I've been doing Goju Ryu for just short of 20 years now, practicing it, studying it, teaching it, and I thought I'd take all the knowledge that's in my head and distill it using my nerdy ways to make an accessible intro to Goju Ryu Karate. Given the incredibly complex history of Goju Ryu, I could easily do a 2-hour video on this topic. But for now, we're just going to talk about what Goju Ryu is and what it isn't, where it comes from, what it's about, and hopefully you will have many more questions at the end that you can ask either me or your sensei about this beautiful art. Let's get started with the beginning. Goju Ryu is a traditional Okinawan close-range martial art that originated in Naha, Okinawa. While karate is often seen as a Japanese invention, it originates in Okinawa, but it was mostly exported to the world by the Japanese and with the help of American soldiers returning from their stations in Okinawa and taking karate back to America with them, and thus making it a global and popular activity. I hate to call it sport. What makes Goju Ryu such a distinct style is its close-range nature, its supplementary training, and its combination of circular and straight techniques. It also has Hojo Undo, it has Bonkai, Kakie, Randori, so it is a large system. And if taught properly, it is also a complete system, but we'll get into that later. Goju Ryu was named the hard soft way in 1930, and the story goes that jin'an Shinzato, who was Chojun Miyagi's top student at the time, went to the All Japan demonstration for martial arts in Kyoto, and when he was asked by the organizers what the name of his style was, he didn't have a name, so on the spot he came up with Hanku Ryu, which means half-hard style. And when he returned to Sensei Miyagi realized he needed to give his own style that he created a name. And so from there he chose a line from the poem that's in the Bubishi, the 8 precepts. Inhaling represents softness, while exhaling characterizes hardness. It is this contrast of hard and soft, straight and circular that epitomizes Goju Ryu and makes it a distinct style. Goju Ryu contains 8 elements or 8 possible subjects, and this is delineated by Sensei Tereo Chinen. We even have a board in the dojo for it. Dojo-kun, which is philosophy, Kokyo-ho, which is breathing work, Yumbi Undo, Kiga Undo, and Hojo Undo, which are different forms of supplementary training, Kata, of course, Bunkai and Oyoi, Bunkai, including basic and advanced, which is Oyo, Kakie, Komite, Dento, and Rikishi. So Dento and Rikishi is history and respect, or basically manners. When you walk into a serious Goju Ryu dojo, you see training implements, such as the Kongo Ken, Chishi, Ichisashi, Nigirigami, and Makiwara. There are 12 kata, 2 of which are only found in Goju Ryu, namely Shishoshin and Tensho. You'll see Randori, which is slow, controlled, and continuous fighting. There'll be Kakie, which is pushing hands technique and originates from Chinese Pakwa fighting. Miyagi's own cross-study of judo and wrestling also adds flavor to the Bunkai, which has locks, throws, chokes, and any number of strikes built in. You can see the full range of them in our Bunkai playlist to get an idea. And on the wall, you should see a picture of this man, Chojun Miyagi. Miyagi is probably the most famous name in karate, thanks to the Karate Kid movies. The character of Mr. Miyagi was named for Chojun Miyagi as the scriptwriter for the Karate Kid movie. Robert Mark Carmen practiced Goju Ryu. He based the script on his own bullying story and his 2 very different instructors, as you can see in Kreese and Miyagi, and the rest is history. The real Chojun Miyagi was born as Miyagi Matsu in Naha in 1888 and was given the name Miyagi Chojun at the age of 5 when he was adopted by his uncle and aunt after the death of his father. Details differ from account to account, but he started training at the age between 11 and 14 years old with Tamarite master and fighter and, conveniently, his neighbor, Ryoko Aragaki sensei. This is why you shouldn't let anyone tell you that kids can't do karate. It was good enough for Miyagi. When Aragaki sensei moved away to Taiwan, Chojun sensei was then introduced to Kanryo Higawana, who he trained with until he passed away in 1916. After school each day, Chojun Miyagi would run 10 kilometers to his sensei's house, adding to his physical excellence with gymnastics and wrestling. Because of Okinawa's history as a trading post between Japan and China, he drew many influences from not only the instructors he trained with in Okinawa, but in his travels to those countries, which include influences from White Crane Kung Fu, monk fist boxing, and as well as Tode, which was the local version of empty hand fighting. It's important to note that luck played a large part in Goju Ryu's destiny. Miyagi sensei's family were an import-export, which means they had access to merchant ships, which meant he had access to travel to go and expand his studies. By accounts of the time, his family was really rather wealthy, and they were also very generous in that they bankrolled his karate journey. They paid for everything so that he could focus on karate because they saw his gift. He was able to quit his desk job and focus on karate. And this is important to remember. He was a trust fund baby. He was able to pursue his karate because it was paid for. I want you to give yourself a break because not everyone has these kind of circumstances that allows them to fully embody karate. It puts pretty much paid to the lie that karate was created by peasants, which is unfair and untrue. It was used by fishermen and farmers and the working class, but it wasn't taught to them and it wasn't invented by them. It was invented by Chojun Miyagi and Jishin Funakoshi, and these men who were of a higher social class and had more access to money and more time. It's hard to create a martial arts style when you have to go fishing for 12 hours a day and still go look after your family, or when you're a farmer and you're trying to get crops. So karate may have been practiced by the working class, but it was created and grown by wealthier men. I digress. He spent much time traveling around China, learning from whoever he could, and especially in Fujian province, the home of White Crane Kung Fu, which was created by a woman named Feng Zhuang. I'm sorry if I butchered the pronunciation, but I'll share her story in a whole nother video. He brought back his knowledge and started teaching his own style throughout the 1920s and 30s until the outbreak of World War II. In 1918, Chojun Miyagi worked with Choki Motobu Sensei, Chomo Hanashiro Sensei, and Kenwa Mabuni Sensei to set up the Ryukyu Tode Kenkyu Kai, one of the first organizations for promoting Tode and karate, as well as doubling up as a research and knowledge preservation group. I think that's a good idea. I think we need to start these collective karate studying groups again. And then Goju Ryu was the first Okinawan style to be recognized by the Dai Nippon Botokukai in 1933. As with so many of these giants of karate history, there are many apocryphal and anecdotal stories that we are lucky to have through first-person accounts, through the diaries of his family, and through the students who managed to keep these stories and pass them on, and that we still have access to through media. One of my favorite stories that I was told about him is that because he had moderate wealth, he would let the children in the neighborhood come and eat from his fruit trees for free, and let themselves fill themselves up, because he knew that not everyone had. And we'll talk about Okinawa's devastating poverty after the Second World War now. In an interview with his daughter, she talks about how he was a very devoted, strict, but very devoted and loving father. And every Saturday he would bath them, he would shampoo their hair, and he would meticulously cut their nails for them. And then there's also stories where he would rip bare meat with his hands, and one where he punctured a hole in a kerosene can with just his big toe. And of course, the shredding the bamboo poles and defeating any number of challenges. These are all part of the myth-making of Sensei Miyagi. And of course, with any kind of historical record, it's hard to be sure what's true and what's been kind of blown up over the years. But I do think it captures kind of the essence of his character. Karate ground to a halt during the Second World War. On April 1st, 1945, Okinawa became a theater of war, caught between America and Japan in the Battle of Okinawa, also known as Operation Iceberg. 1,780 Okinawan schoolboys aged between 14 and 17 were conscripted into battle by the Japanese in the Teiketsu Kinotai, or the Iron and Blood Imperial Force. 149,634 Okinawans died. At least 90% of the buildings on the island were destroyed, along with countless historical artifacts, documents, cultural treasures, and the tropical landscape was turned into, quote, a vast field of mud, lead, decay, and maggots, end quote. Chojun Miyagi lost many of his students, including his top student Jin'an and 3 of his 10 children. His books and scrolls were lost, his dojo was destroyed, and was later only rebuilt by his students as the Jundokan, or the home of the father in his garden, just before his death. In an interview with Sensei Eiichi Miyazato, he said that, quote, we had no water, electricity, and some families were without a home. It was a survival period where our primary concern was for our families and to provide food for them. It was not on karate. Sadly, before his style could grow, Sensei Chojun Miyagi died from his second heart attack in 1953. I hope that wherever he is, up in Sensei Miyagi in the big dojo in the sky, I hope he can see how his incredible style has flourished around the world, from his little garden dojo in Naha, right to nearly every continent, right down here to South Africa, to America, to you name it. There's very few countries that don't have Goju Ryu, and I hope he can see that success wherever he is. Because this is a video for beginners, I'm not getting into the very messy history of succession and lineage after Sensei Miyagi died. Suffice to say, there were multiple break-offs. There was one meeting where a semi-heir had been agreed upon, but as with any time there's a death of a major figure in any martial arts, there is and always will be splits. And sometimes they don't even have to wait for someone to die. There will just be splits anyway. There are creators who've done a deeper dive into the exact topic of Goju Ryu's history post-World War II. I will link to them in the description along with all the other references I've used for this video. Suffice to say, what you need to know as a beginner is that there are many schools and many offshoots of Goju Ryu. You can have an authentic lineage, which is going back as far as possible directly to Chojun Miyagi. There are schools that have splintered off more recently. And with martial arts, as with anything, your mileage may vary. It does remind me of a little bit of that scene from The Life of Brian, for those of you who are old enough to get this reference, where the one person's like, I've got his shoe, and I've got his gourd, and he's running around going, I'm not the Messiah. I feel like a lot of that sums up the splits in karate. In my opinion, in my third dan, 19 years of karate, been to Okinawa opinion, Goju Ryu is a complete style. Whatever the MMA guys think they're doing, there's only so many ways to hit someone. There's only so many ways to do something. And it's all in Goju Ryu. If you look at the complete system, as it was taught back in the day, we've got it. We've got locks, we've got chokes, we've got throws, we've got stand-up fighting, we've got conditioning for strength, we've got conditioning for speed, conditioning for power. But, and this is the caveat, because it is such a large system and such a deep and complex system, it takes years and years of mastery. There are no shortcuts in Goju Ryu. There's no quick way to a black belt. There's no quick way to become incredibly strong and incredibly powerful. All the Goju Ryu power men have become that way through many years of meticulous and consistent study. So I think one of the reasons why Goju Ryu isn't as popular is because it's not an easy style. Yes, there are one or two simple cutters in terms of Geksareshi Ni, but after that, the difficulty curve does become significantly harder. And I think in an age where people don't necessarily have the time or the attention span or the bandwidth to study for more than 6 months, I think Goju Ryu is a very demanding, very challenging style, which is why I love it. I'll never run out of things to learn. I'll never run out of things to do. And that's why I hope to continue training until, it's my turn to shuffle off this mortal coil, hopefully in my 80s or 90s, because I've seen in Okinawa, I've seen practitioners in their 60s, 70s, and 80s. Some of them in their 80s are putting the 30-year-olds to shame in terms of their power and their control and the grace with which they perform their kata. I didn't start Goju Ryu specifically, though, because it was Goju Ryu. When I started karate at 19, when I found a little dojo tucked away behind a bathroom at varsity, I couldn't have told you the difference between Shotokan and Goju Ryu or Kyokushin. I just found a dojo that I liked, and it happened to be Goju Ryu. But since 2006, I've lucked my way into being under the Sensei Eiichi Miyazato line through Jundokan, and I've been across 3 different federations. This is across 19 years of training. All my certificates trace back to him, and I believe that that's as authentic a lineage as you can get. These are just some of the things I've learned. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you found it useful. I hope it helps you interrogate where your karate comes from, who taught it, who taught them, why they taught it, the context in which it came up. And that's why it's so important to know your cultural history of whatever style you're learning. Your understanding of Goju Ryu is not complete until you understand the impact that war had on Okinawa, or the relationship between Japan, China, and Okinawa pre-World War II. It's all got something to do with how the flavor developed in the style, the influences, the impact of the style. And I hope this video helps you get at least a little foothold or a little foot in the door about asking the right questions, not only of your sensei, but of your federation or your style. Where does it come from? Who taught it? Where did they come from? What were their influences? Who did they teach it to? All of these things are important things to consider, A, when you're choosing a style, or B, if you are looking into your style. And again, I refer to the fact that karate has a very contentious history, and a lot of these things have been challenged, and we don't have a lot of primary sources, especially since so much of it was destroyed in the Second World War when Okinawa was basically flattened. So what I have tried to give you are some of the facts, what's that English word now? The verified facts of Goju Ryu. I've put my references in the description below. I will also add a set list of books that I feel are essential reading for the Goju Ryu practitioner. Read everything with an open mind, but there's a saying from Terry Pratchett that I love. When your mind is too open, people will insist on putting things in it. So do your own research, ask your seniors, enjoy this journey. It becomes better the more you know about it. I hope you found my little video useful. Thank you for watching all the way through to the end. This took a really, really, really long time to make, so please, if you enjoyed it, please hit like and maybe share it with a friend. I'd appreciate that. Train with enthusiasm. Train forever. Thank you very much. Arigato gozaimasu. Sayonara.